So today's session, we have 4 PGR students from the same cultural background. So they are going to discuss how research can inform teaching, learning, instruction, and assessments, and technology enhance the learning in the landscape of the country's 2030 vision, right?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you, Hawaii. Thank you, Maggie, for that lovely introduction. Hello, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to attend our session today. My colleagues and I have been working over the past 2 months to bring this presentation to you, and we are very much aware of the time, and we're considerate of the connections that might issues that might arise. So we will be showing you the presentation and allowing you to send your messages or send your questions through the chat box. And we have, as much as we want to present this in person, but we decided to deliver this through an audio inserted presentation in order just to allow a smooth transition of the presentation to all of you.
Hello, everyone. This is Bayan Al-Hashmi. I'm a first-year PhD student in language education, and I have a 4-year teaching experience in the same context of my study, which is the English Language Institute at the University of Jeddah. Because we mainly teach foundation year students, I would like to start by defining what the foundation year program is and the issue I'm trying to address in my research, because they're kind of related. So the foundation year program at both universities is a program designed to subject newly admitted students in pre-sessional courses like statistics, mathematics, English, communication skills, and some other ones. And that's for 2 academic semesters in a row. Even though students' diversity is something normal and it's something to be expected in most, if not all, educational settings, in the context of this study, the level of students' diversity is believed to be very high, and that's for 3 main reasons. The first one is related to the university's rank and location on the map. Because Jeddah is one of the central cities in Saudi Arabia, students who get immersed in the foundation year program usually come from different regional, cultural, and educational backgrounds. They're not only from Jeddah, but they usually come from all over the country. The second reason is because students at this level are not yet filtered by major, and by that I mean they're not yet transferred to the regular study system as any other university students. And the last reason is the size of the classroom. Sometimes we have up to 40 students in one class, and this makes the whole teaching experience very challenging. Okay, so my research idea is basically built on the assumption that the one-size-fits-all approach to language teaching in general and grammar instruction in specific is not of much effectiveness, especially when teaching large classrooms as in the context of this study. One way of solving this issue, well, not solving because it's not a problem, one way of addressing this issue is by applying what has been promoted by Tomlinson as differentiated instruction. According to Tomlinson 2001, this method of teaching is a proactive approach where the teacher responds and attends to students' needs and differences. It's a very large concept, very general concept, and it can be approached from many perspectives. For example, it can be approached by taking account of learners' readiness for language proficiency level, for example, or their interests, like their preferences and learning styles. Or it could be approached by relying on students' learning profiles, under which comes their cognitive abilities, which is the focus of my study. What makes this method of teaching different from individualized instruction, which appeared in the 70s, is the fact that differentiated instruction does not involve breaking the lesson into heterogeneous segments or fragments, and it does not involve dividing students into fixed groups. Instead, in differentiated classrooms, the teacher might find herself or himself sometimes working with individual students, sometimes with small groups, and sometimes with the whole class as well. Another point to mention is that differentiated instruction is also believed to bridge the gap between learning and instruction as two important constructs that are usually treated differently in the literature of SLA. So it brings these two important constructs together under one umbrella.
Hello again, everyone. First of all, thank you, Bayan, for introducing us to your research. Before discussing mine, I will briefly point out some of the education policies that have led to drastic developments in Saudi higher education. These have had a major impact on teaching, learning, and assessment. In 2008, state universities in Saudi Arabia adopted a new educational policy. It stated that English would become the medium of instruction for all scientific departments. This led to establishing a foundation year program within those universities. These programs aim to prepare students to cope with the new academic requirements in their chosen majors and to improve their overall language competence in English. Year after year, further developments came along, and ways of assessment were no exception. It was no surprise that major decisions in such programs needed to take into account steady growth in student population. So in 2012, online English language exams were introduced for the very first time. I remember that day very well, and I thought to myself, how is this new way of assessment going to affect teaching and learning? In terms of changes in curricula, a new set of books were introduced just as I was applying for my ethical approval. The new curriculum was designed to introduce English for academic purposes to students who had been assigned on science pathway in foundation year program. I had never taught English using the new curriculum, and I was interested in finding out how the teachers found this new experience. Another major decision came along in 2018 when it was announced that Blackboard would be used to assess students on their writing as part of the course requirements. Although it seemed interesting to conduct research on teachers' assessment feedback through Blackboard, it would not serve in the interest of my study. Since my research aimed at exploring feedback that serves formative purposes, it was necessary to witness teachers in action as they would use their own strategies in facilitating and providing feedback on writing. This was one of the major benefits of piloting my first research method, interviews. Further information on my pilot study is provided on the recent edition of Hilary Play's papers. This research project has explored teachers' beliefs about the shared role of feedback provision in the EFL classroom. It has identified how teachers facilitate and provide feedback, and has discovered the relationship between teachers' self-reported feedback and the nature of the classroom feedback experience. The research context was an English for academic purposes course within a foundation year program at one specific Saudi university. Due to cultural restrictions, only female participants were included in this study, and I had looked into learners' second language writing tasks and assessments during the course. The data collection process was carried out during the entire 7-week timeline of the teaching course. It had included different forms of interviewing, including audio, face-to-face, and online messaging. Data analysis had also been conducted prior and following each interview. Classroom observations took place before and after the mid-module writing exam, And in the end, 15 interviews and 10 classroom observations were analyzed according to themes and subthemes. Preliminary findings revealed that there is variance amongst the sample and their feedback processes, regardless of institutional guidelines on providing feedback to learners. Teachers' application of co-produced feedback using multiple feedback sources, such as peers, could have enabled sustainable feedback practices.
Hello everyone, thank you for joining us today. My name is Al-Sheehri. I am a third year PhD student in language education. I will talk today about my doctoral research topic. So second language learners generally have a goal to be fluent in second language. What is fluency? In general, it can be defined as proficiency. Means when people are commenting about a person who speaks a language fluently, they are usually referring to a foreign language speaker. For example, when someone says she is a fluent speaker of English, or she is a fluent speaker of Spanish, for example. Another definition for fluency is a natural flow of speech, which is free of hesitation, repetition, false starts. Also, it can be defined as overall speaking proficiency and ability to speak a language with the correct grammar, syntax, large vocabulary size as well, and a native-like accent without too many fillers, like you know, I think, like. Also, fluency can also be defined as speakers should be able to utilize the language to express feelings such as sadness, happiness, fun, imagination, or creativity. Fluency has been studied less in dialogue than in monologue, although there are a few studies which have compared oral fluency in dialogue and monologue performances. There is still a lack of established procedure for dealing with the greater complexity that dialogue presents. It's also still unclear how fluency is operationalized in dialogue. Second language utterance fluency has three components: speed, breakdown, and repair. Thus, this study could contribute to increasing the reliability of second language utterance fluency measures in dialogue and monologue performance by comparing the oral fluency in dialogue and monologue, and also compare the results of this study with the previous results in the literature. The finding of this study aimed to be beneficial for second language English instructor in the English department at the University of Jeddah. In many ways, first, it can help improving the students' speaking abilities in interactional context by using more dialogue activities in classroom. Second, this study aims to provide reasons for the students' disfluency and suggestion for the two speaking tasks that other instructor may consider adopting to promote and facilitate second language production. Also, a second language learner should be encouraged to use some of the proposed strategies to help keep or maintain the flow of their speech in real life communication. For example, when students encounter problems with their speaking, they should use the filled pauses, self-correction, for example, rather than remaining silent or repeating the same speech without modification, or even hesitates, so to keep the flow of their speech, maybe they can use filled pauses or self-correction.
This is Amal Basheikh. I'm a PhD researcher at the University of Leeds and a lecturer at King Abdulaziz University in Saudi Arabia. I appreciate the support of the CLER community in giving me and my colleagues in this presentation the chance to talk about our studies and share context.
Mobile devices and the internet provide learners with multiple opportunities for self-initiated language learning and motivation for English use. It's not only English anymore. Multilingualism is becoming increasingly common that in Twitter bio I see individuals writing, I speak 3 languages, I speak 5 languages. Most of the research on smartphones for English language learning, specifically in Saudi, follow the trend in conducting teacher or researcher-led classroom intervention studies or focusing on quantitative data. What's lacking is a much more detailed picture of how students use their personal devices and related to design projects to support their English language learning. Building on previous research and believing that the new generation are more enthusiastic about language learning, using technology and learning by oneself, in my study I explore how Saudi female university students use their smartphones for English language learning. I also look at their beliefs and perceived benefits on self-directed learning and use of smartphones for English learning, in order to understand what the students currently do and how to support them. My study is in the same context that my colleagues Ruaa and Bayan already talked about, which is foundation-year female university students. And specifically, my participants are in the science section, and at the time of the data collection, they were in level 103, which is A plus B1. I used 3 different research instruments to collect data: classroom observation, online survey, and semi-structured interviews where participants showed me what they do on their devices.
I have a few very interesting questions asked by Maggie.
Yeah, I can just ask very quickly. So really, you know, you mentioned diversity in terms of culture.
Okay, yeah. So yes, as I mentioned, I'm approaching differentiated instruction from the perspective of students' cognitive differences. And research under this area can be divided into 2 domains. Students' cognitive aptitudes, which focuses on usually on the level of learners' abilities, and it answers the question of how much students are different. And then we have learners' cognitive profiles, under which comes their preferences as expressed by students themselves through self-report questionnaires.
May I ask something, Amal?
Yeah, sure.
Do you think all the new opportunities they have to learn English outside the classroom using their smartphones is affecting their attitude to, you know, their formal instruction? Does it make them more enthusiastic for their formal classes, or do they find the classes more boring because it's less interesting than what they do outside the class?
From the participants I interviewed, most of them mentioned that due to the opportunities they have outside the classroom, they now know more that they need their teachers because they needed guidance to use these resources outside of the classroom. So yeah, I can feel that those who are motivated to learn the language and want to use resources appreciate their teachers more.
Okay. So there's no sort of very clear division between what they do outside the class and what they do inside.
With their smartphones, yes, because there's lots of teachers who don't allow the use of smartphones in the class. That's another issue that I discuss in my research. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Amal.
Okay.
When will your first publication be ready to read?
I hope so.
Great, I'm looking forward to it. Very interesting topic.
Definitely.
Yeah, sorry.
Yes, Maggie, please.
I just wanted to, so if anyone else wants to say, so for example, Mavis, I don't think we've met. Did you want to ask a question? Did you want to make comment? HR, sorry to put you on the spot, Mavis. No?
No, not really.
Oh,
I'm just interested. Yeah, that's why I'm still here.
I think I want to add something, if it's okay. I think it's really amazing how learners are pretty much leading in this domain of language learning, and how much they're changing us, you know. Like I said in my presentation, you know, when we introduced online testing for the very first time, and the students were just, you know, in the zone, they knew what to do. They didn't really need that much help from us. I think when it comes to technology and the new ways of learning, I think they're leading pretty much, and we can learn a lot from them if we just listen to them, if we involve them as much as possible. And this is what, you know, we're trying to, you know, say through our research, that involving learners, giving them more of an active role, you know, giving them voice, you know, this will allow them to you know, take control and give them agency in the whole language learning process. And yeah, hopefully this, you know, the projects will speak for themselves that way.